Welcome to episode 95 of the Forward from 50 podcast, where we interview people over 50 who are pursuing new direction for their lives. It's an opportunity for men and women to tell their stories, their way, and in their own words. I'm Greg Gerber, the founder of Forward from 50, and your host for today's show. Today, I sit down with Margie Zable Fisher, a writer, adventurer, and champion of embracing new experiences. When she turned 50, Margie launched the Margie Project, which is a year-long personal challenge where she tackled new experiences each month. She tried everything from skydiving to running a 5K race and even learning to ride a motorcycle. But her journey didn't stop there. Inspired by her late mother, Margie transitioned into fiction writing and co-authored The Cabernet Club, a novel about reinvention and friendship in midlife. In this episode, Margie shares how taking risks, stepping outside her comfort zone, and finding purpose have transformed her life. If you ever wondered how to create your own adventure after 50, you won't want to miss this conversation. So please welcome Margie Zable Fisher to the show. Thanks for joining me today, Margie. I really appreciate the time. You started your 50s in a rather unique style with what you called the Margie Project. Tell us about that and what it involved.
Sure. So let's face it. When you're turning 50, it's not really fun, at least if you're a woman. I'm not sure about a guy, but I'm guessing it just isn't really fun for people because you're thinking, I have fewer years left ahead than I did behind. Really, I was thinking more than half my life is over. I was depressed. I was thinking about it during my 49th year. And so I wanted to do something to commemorate it. It's a big birthday. A lot of people have 50th birthday parties and that kind of thing. That wasn't really what I was interested in. I didn't really want to take a trip. I've done trips. That didn't really feel right. And I'm known as an idea person, right? I'm a writer. I'm a creative. So I'm like, I felt like I really needed to come up with something. And I had one of those aha moments where I decided, okay, instead of feeling sorry for myself, I'm going to do something that I want to do. So what I ended up doing was beginning with my birthday month, which was March. Each month, I wanted to have a new experience with one or more of my friends. So these experiences wouldn't be expensive, but they really needed to be something I hadn't done before, something new. And then one of my friends, after I told her about it, said, "This is the Margie Project." And I said, okay, it's perfect. Let's call it the Margie Project. And it really became a term that inspired me.
I love that idea. So you're doing an experience one-on-one with a special friend of yours every month the year you turn 50.
Exactly. Yeah. And I did a variety of experiences. I did a few things that were outside of my comfort zone. One of them was learning to ride a motorcycle, which I wrote about in my blog. Also skydiving. So those two things were really out of my comfort zone. Then I did some spiritual ones, like going to a numerologist, which is super fun. And she's like a psychic, but doing things with numbers and reading numbers, which is really interesting. I had a health-related one, which ended up being a big one for me, which was running a 5K, since I was never really a runner and wasn't really thinking I was good at it. And also relationships. So I met some, or wanted to meet some long-lost family members. And then I did end up doing one group event at the end, which was going to a high tea, which I had never done before, even though I'm a tea drinker, and spending high tea with a group of friends.
What is a high tea?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know if there's a low tea, but a high tea, I think, means the kind of tea where you make it into an event. It's usually late afternoon and you have not just tea, but you have little fun, special snacks.
Okay, almost like a tea party.
I think it is a tea party. You would call it that, yes.
A high tea sounds better.
Yes, high tea sounds better.
So you found 12 friends, or did you do events with a couple of friends multiple times?
Both. The interesting thing was the first event ended up being learning to ride a motorcycle. And my husband chose that one. So he is a good friend and he wanted to learn to ride a motorcycle with me. So that was fun. The other ones were really my girlfriends. So a lot of them were done one-on-one, but a few of them were done in a group. Let's see, skydiving, I went with a good friend and my daughter and her friend. And then family members were grouped. And then the high tea was with a group of friends. So it was really a mixture of everything. And I really made a lot of changes and learned a lot of things from those experiences.
I would imagine. Did you learn about yourself or your friends? It's those kind of connections can be really meaningful when done the right way.
Especially in hindsight, I really learned a lot. But right then, I learned a few things. First of all, I learned that it really helps to have a buddy to help you.
Mm-hmm.
So the instance I use that with is for the 5K. So one of my friends is a really great runner. I knew I wasn't going to run that 5K by myself or train for it by myself. So she trained with me and I got to spend a lot of time with her. She's one of my friends. Her name is Nikki. I call her my perfect friend because she's perfect. She's just one of those perfect people. So she not only helped me with the 5K, but then she introduced me to triathlons. After 50, not only did I do my first 5K, but I did my first triathlon, which includes swimming, biking, and running. From a health perspective, I really upped my game fitness-wise after 50, and it really started with the Margie Project.
That's cool. I couldn't go 5,000 inches by running, let alone run a triathlon. My goodness, that's quite the accomplishment.
Yeah, thanks. I couldn't either when I started.
What kind of training did you have to do for that?
Really, I left it to her. She would have me go run to the end of the street and back, and then I'd do a little bit more and a little bit more, and I'd take a break. And then eventually we worked up to the 5K, and I was never very fast during the 5K or in my triathlons, but really my goal was to complete them. So I think I had reasonable expectations. Plus I'm short, so I'll probably never be an award-winning runner, but I wanted to do it and it feels really good. And there's nothing like a runner's high. I can tell you that.
Was your friend an experienced runner herself?
She was.
Okay.
She was an experienced runner and she had done triathlons. So she was really the perfect person to really introduce me to all of those things.
So I've heard of this app, Coach to 5K, that a lot of people have been raving about and getting them off the couch and out to the point where they can actually complete a 5K.
Yes. And I think it's a really great goal because so many people like me said, I hate running, or I can't run, or I couldn't do, like you said, I couldn't run 1,000 inches or whatever. But you know what? You can. It just takes a little bit of practice and work, but you can do it.
With the triathlon, what all does that involve?
The basic triathlon is really swimming for, say, half a mile or so in open water, generally, so the ocean. Biking is roughly, again, in the shortest triathlons, biking would roughly be about 10 to 12 miles. And then running is 3.1 miles.
Okay, so it's doable.
It's definitely doable. Yeah, there's higher level ones. I've done the lowest level, which is a sprint, and the higher level, which is Olympic. And then, of course, there's, Ironman. But yeah, so there's different levels that people can take part in.
Very good. When that project was done, I understand you started a new project with your mom.
Yeah. So, okay. So one of the things that came out of the Margie project was that I really looked at every part of my life, right? So I had looked at my friendships, my health, my family, that kind of thing. But I also looked at my work life because at the time, I had a PR business that I had been running for roughly 20 years.
Okay.
And I was burnt out. And I said, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. So I decided to transition from public relations to freelance writing, which was very challenging. Of course, I did writing in my PR business, but for transitioning from pitching people for stories to writing the stories was very different. So I wanted to explain that because there was a little transition where I ended up working with my mom first. So I had a couple of mini transitions as part of the Margie project. So the first one was that my mom was an editor and a writer. Okay. So she basically mentored me through this transition to freelance writing. That was right after I turned 50. Okay. And I've been doing writing for quite a while. It was all freelance writing. It's all nonfiction writing, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of times I write for media outlets like AARP or Fortune or Next Avenue. And I'll write about things that are helpful for people. Things like how to invest properly, how to budget, ways to help your immune system, all that kind of stuff. And as well, I write for companies that need content for their blogs, like case studies, that kind of thing. But the point of this is I had been for the last few years in the world of writing, but it was all nonfiction. And then something happened that changed things. I think that's what you might have been referring to. Mm-hmm. So what happened was on Christmas Eve day of 2022, my mom fell in her condo and she couldn't get up, which was very strange because she was about, 87 or 88 at the time. And she was always active. She literally, the week before, she had been going to the pool doing exercises. But to make a long story short, we eventually found out she had pancreatic cancer that had moved in very quickly. And she died a couple months later in February.
Wow.
Yeah, mom and I were super close. She was a single parent. I was an only child. It was devastating, shattering, all that kind of stuff. But a few days before she passed, I told her that I would get her adult novel that she had been working on traditionally published. And what's interesting is this was her first adult novel, but she had published with major New York publishers in probably the 1980s and 1990s, 3 young adult and 1 middle grade novel.
So all fiction.
Yeah, all fiction. And they were with major New York City publishers. So, but this was 30 plus years ago. And as most people know, the publishing world has really changed. Mm-hmm. That was a whole different world. Like, I don't think her agent was around anymore. It was like, it's a totally different world. Plus, this is a different genre. So adult novels, totally different world, contemporary fiction than her young adult stuff. But I said to her many times, I said, I'll just self-publish it. I could figure it out. And she's no, she didn't want that. So she wanted a publisher to publish the book, but it hadn't happened yet. So I said, okay, I'm going to get your book traditionally published. And she's, don't worry about it. She was really sick at this time. I said, no, I want to do this for you. So after she passed away, she left a bunch of computer files, but also a stack, probably, I'm not kidding, like maybe half a foot high of paper. And in that paper were all the different chapters and all the parts of the novel. And when I went through it, I realized that she had a first draft. She had a lot of great scenes, great characters, and humor were really her strong points. But the novel needed some work. Okay. So, and I figured, well, I'm a freelance writer. I read plenty of fiction. How hard could this be? But it fix it up and finish it and get it published. I was clueless.
Most of us are. Yes.
Oh my goodness. I was clueless. So I'm thinking, what the heck? Anyway, what I ended up doing was taking 3 months off. I took 3 months off from my regular writing work. So I told my clients, I said, I got to take this time to figure out how to learn how to write fiction. I had no idea because as a reader, you read and you enjoy it. But gosh, as I started listening to podcasts, which are very helpful in this area, teaching you how to write fiction and all kinds of things about books, I listened to podcasts. I researched information online. Ultimately, I actually hired a developmental editor because I wanted her to pinpoint exactly what was missing. And there were some major things that I had to work on in the novel. By the end of the 3 months, I had added 20,000 words. I had changed the title. I had new characters, new plot lines, a timeline, a new opening, and a bunch more stuff. And during that time, I feel fortunate because it gave me something to do while I was grieving. Sometimes I'd be writing and I'd be crying because I'd be sad thinking about mom, or I'd read something she wrote and it would just remind me about her. It would be something that I was like, yeah, I can see mom writing that. It helped me focus myself on something. And I like projects, is right. So I did all that. And then after the 3 months, I said, okay, I'm just going to reach out to agents and publishers. Now, that took me a year. So basically, what happened was, I don't know how this press was found, but I stumbled across this small new publisher called Sibylline Press that only publishes books by women over 50. Which I thought was an amazing fit because I'm over 50. My mom is over 50. I write a lot about people over 50. And to this day, I'm still not sure how I found it. I actually think maybe mom guided me to it. So anyway,
We call those God moments.
all those God moments, I really believe that, right? I believe things happen, right? For that reason. So bottom line is that Sibylline Press, by the time this comes out, will have published the Cabernet Club on January 31st, 2025. And it's co-authored by Rona S. Zable and Margie Zable Fisher, my mom and I. The ebook and print book will be available then. And then in a few months, we're going to have an audiobook available. And it's really a fun novel. The novel's main character is a recent retiree looking to finally live the life of her dreams with the help of some new friends, which probably resonates with your listeners. Most of the characters are over 50. And in the publishing world, we would call it a coming-of-age novel, except with an older character. So they're really learning to come of age and fulfill what they want to fulfill in life.
Oh, that's very nice. I like that you do that. It's a legacy project, not only for your mom completing her legacy, but for you and developing this thing together and doing it, each of you contributing in some way to create the finished product. I think that's so memorable. That's what a cool thing. I wish a lot of people would be able to do that.
I know. I feel it's a gift. I feel horrible that my mom passed away, but I feel like we probably wouldn't have happened like this if she had still been around, because it'd just been sitting there and we hadn't done this together. It was sitting there probably for a year or two because she was getting tired. She was almost 90. Mm-hmm. And so this helped it become available. And the best part is that I actually have plotted out the second and third novels. I have a series idea.
That's neat. So it'll be picking up on the theme of the Cabaret Club.
Absolutely. And my dream, our dream actually, we used to talk about this, was for this novel to be made into really a TV series. And one of the things the publisher does is it has a person in-house who negotiates rights for that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And hopefully it would be, we really like the idea of a TV show because we envisioned it as a cross between Schitt's Creek and a budget version of the Golden Girls.
Okay.
So that's how we describe it. It would be a lot of fun, but there's a lot of drama, ups and downs, happy, sad. It's really got everything. So it's actually become bigger than just this one-off project. Hopefully it'll be something that I continue with.
Did you find it difficult to transition from writing nonfiction into fiction?
Yeah. I did, because the good thing is when you're writing nonfiction, you understand things like structure and story and that kind of thing.
Attribution.
Exactly. But remember, fiction has things like dialogue, mm-hmm. which I had when I quoted people, but creating it yourself. One of the things that I was always cognizant of, and thank goodness my mom and I had worked together for so long, is I wanted the voice to be seamless. Okay. Because I added brand new chapters and I edited a lot, but I didn't want people to say, did you write that part because something about it sounds weird or off? I really wanted our voices to be melded. And I think that is accomplished in this book.
That's great. When you're writing in your 50s, I've interviewed a lot of people who have done that. It seems to be a favorite thing because we have so much knowledge and experience and a desire to share that with others. But some people say, I just could never write a book. But you had mentioned on a way that you got around this by hiring a developmental editor. Tell people what a developmental editor is and what he or she would do.
Absolutely. I think it was money well spent. This particular person, they all work differently, and there are different kind of editors for your books, okay? But a developmental editor is someone you use really in the beginning of a process, maybe after your first draft, and you're not really sure if there are major holes in things. For instance, is your central conflict strong enough? That was something I really needed to work on here, especially since when you have contemporary fiction and you're dealing with character issues.
The same kind of thing with the developmental editors can apply to nonfiction as well, because they can help people outline the story that they want to write. So
Absolutely. Developmental editors, unlike a copy editor, are really people who help you with the big parts of the story, the overarching themes, conflicts, characters, holes that really need to be filled or changes you need to make the story better. So my developmental editor actually went chapter by chapter and told me specific things in that chapter, as well as everything in the whole book that really needed changing. And there was a lot.
Okay.
So it was actually really helpful because it also helped me focus when I was trying to get up to speed on learning things. Because you can learn, I mean, you could spend the rest of your life just listening to podcasts and learning how to write fiction. But when I knew what I really had to laser focus on, I could pick and choose those learnings and then apply them more quickly.
That's great.
Yeah.
You said you're going to do an audiobook. Are you reading it yourself or hiring somebody to do that?
Gosh, no, my publisher picked someone. I heard the audition tape. She sounds great, and I'm excited.
So that'll come out here within a couple of months.
Yep, couple months.
After turning 50, you also dived into another sport that's becoming very popular here in Sun City, Arizona, pickleball. What prompted you to get into that?
It was really fortunate. I was visiting some cousins in Maine, and one of them said to me, we need a fourth for this pickleball game. And I had no idea what she was talking about. This was probably, 4 or 5 years ago. I said, I don't know what it is, but I'm pretty sporty, or I am now that I'm over 50. So I said, sure, why not? Plus I played tennis, so I knew it was like tennis. Anyway, we played in a little gymnasium. They had repurposed it for pickleball, which is very common. In fact, I play a lot here in a similar situation. But anyway, so we played and I loved it. I told my husband it was fun. He was not with me at the time, but he was a former tennis player too, but he had really bad knees. So we just talked about it, and that was really nice, and nothing happened. And then about a year later, we went to an event when we were back in Florida where they actually were demonstrating pickleball. And they put up a little tiny net where you could dink to each other. Dinking is like a little short hit. And this is super fun. I said, let's see if we can take a lesson or two somewhere. And we did. And then we really started getting into it. And my mom suggested to my husband that he become a part-time certified pickleball instructor because he's a teacher by trade, right? So he's good at teaching things, but this would give him like a sideline for his retirement, right? So he actually went and became a certified pickleball instructor. He was teaching part-time until he just had double knee replacement surgery 2 months ago. But I'm still playing pickleball. I play a couple times a week, and I just love it.
What prompted you as an older woman to take up motorcycling?
I always thought it was cool. And I wrote a blog post about this because I failed a couple times. I failed the test, and it was really depressing, but I eventually triumphed. And I just thought it was cool. I'm like, I want to be like a badass kind of 50-year-old. And that's something I associated with that. Funnily enough, I have never ridden a motorcycle and taken a training class, but I do have my motorcycle license.
Okay. Do you own a
Yeah.
motorcycle?
I don't,
Don't?
but I could.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good point. It's one thing that was on your bucket list and you were inspired to check it off. I think that's great that you took the lesson and stepped out of it. Even though you failed, you persisted until you got it done. That's an outstanding example for you to set for the rest of us.
Thank you.
My pleasure. What did all of this activity, writing a book, doing the triathlon, and learning to ride a motorcycle, how did that impact your life in your 50s?
It really made a huge difference in, I would say, my day-to-day life. Just in what someone might call pre-retirement mode,
Mhm.
working. So I think I have the best of both worlds. I write a lot about retiring happily and healthily. So I'm familiar with that. So I basically have been able to set up my life so that fitness, which is really important to me, is a priority. So every day, but 1 day a week, I take 1 day off because your body needs that. Every day, I probably spend anywhere from an hour to 2.5 hours doing some kind of fitness activity. And I really mix it up because it's not good to do the same activity all the time. So 2 days a week I run, 1 day a week I do a really long bike ride, and 3 days a week I do pickleball, and 3 days a week I do strength training. So I put all that in, and that's really a priority. Then I work in all my writing projects to that. Then I work in my friends' stuff and commitments and appointments and all that kind of things. It's really helped me create a life that I enjoy every day, that I look forward to every day.
Mm-hmm. That's neat. I like that. I like that you're doing all of these things, even though the temptation for us is to kick back, especially when we get older, is to take it
Right.
easy and just go into recreation and surf the net and play golf and things like that. But you're being more active in pursuing your lifestyle. And when you're talking about fitness, and you said you're listening to podcasts, were you combining listening to podcasts with your fitness too? So you're learning while you were getting fit?
Yep, I definitely do that. And I spend a lot of time in my pool. My pool is my reward. So I'm in Florida. I do not have, because I'm in Florida, probably 9 or 10 months of the year, I'm in the pool. And after my workouts, I go in the pool for about 20 to 30 minutes. And I almost always listen to podcasts there.
Mhm.
And just, I like the water. So I just feel the serenity and I can listen, and I'm winding down for my fitness and transitioning from there to like my work day. Yeah, I have a lot of flexibility, but I also have pretty good scheduled stuff with stuff I like to do. So it's a good balance.
Are you still working in your PR business as well?
Nope, my PR business totally not, but I do a lot of work writing. So I still have writing clients. I still have to make money and contribute to the household. And so, and as of right now, until my book is published, I'm not making money on the book. So something's got to pay for the bills, right?
Yes.
My husband's a teacher. We're not millionaires
Mhm.
yet. Maybe who knows what'll happen with the book or movie rights or TV rights. But yes, we're living a lifestyle, and my daughter's finishing up college, and we have a nice, reasonable life, and that's pretty good.
That's neat. If you could turn the clock back, is there anything that you would do differently?
I think about that a lot, and I would say that when I think about all the things that happen, I think there was a reason for everything. I ended up working, for instance, for corporations, big corporations, when I was young,
Mhm.
which really was not a great fit for me in hindsight, but it allowed me to sock away a lot of money for retirement. And understand, I was a finance major, so I had nothing to do with writing. So I really valued the power of compounding. So we actually have decent retirement savings from way back when I put tons of money that had contributions from the company for retirement when I didn't have all the kind of commitments I have now to pay for. That was part of it. And then I met my husband when I moved for a job, and I got life experiences, and I didn't feel like I wanted to be a writer until I had all those life experiences, which I think is why after 50, I felt, and a lot of people after 50 feel like, yeah, now we have enough life experience to really say, okay, I can really feel comfortable writing about stuff because I have enough wisdom myself, and I know where to find information when I write about other things. As someone 50 plus, you have those skills.
That's right. And even if you have to go to work for a corporation right out of school or early in your life, you're getting paid to learn things. So it's a great deal. And everything you learned there in the corporations, you took to your PR business, and everything you learned in your PR business, you're applying to your author business now.
You're 100% right. So yeah, I do believe it all contributes.
Do you have any advice for people over 50 who may be struggling with what to do for passion or purpose at this stage in their life?
Yeah, I struggled with that all my life. Throughout the years, especially when I was in corporate America, I'd be like, I know I don't want to do this. I want to start a business. I don't know what to do, whatever. Who really knows what they want to do? We put a lot of pressure saying there's one right thing. When I'm not so sure there's one right thing. There may be something right now that makes you happy. But I really think just thinking about the things you enjoy doing, and they may not be work related, but finding a way to create a life that includes the 3 or 4 things you love to do, and not worrying about if you're a millionaire or billionaire, something that can take care of your lifestyle, but doing what you want to do, as long as you're in tune with that. I think just being resourceful and creative and thinking how to put a life like that together is something really important and doable for people over 50.
I agree. In fact, I make a mistake a lot of times by telling people they need to find their purpose, when in fact they need to create it. And the way they create their purpose is by going out and doing a bunch of things they always thought they might like. And one of them is going to be so passionate, it's, yes, this is what I was created to do.
Exactly put.
Yep. Thank you. How can people connect with you if they'd like to touch base?
Everything is on my website. So my website is margiezfisher.com. So that would be MARGIE, middle initial Z like zebra, Fisher, FISHER.com. I also have a Facebook group called The 50-Year-Old Mermaid. It's a private group for women who want to live their best lives after 50. So anyone can apply to join. And then I'm also on Instagram at Margie Zable Fisher. And then, of course, the Cabernet Club, the novel, can be found on Amazon and eventually a bunch of other online platforms. But right now, Amazon is the best place for it.
That's neat. So that's a 50-year-old mermaid?
Yeah.
There's got to be a story behind that name.
There is, and it has to do with the Margie Project.
Okay.
But yeah, so I basically really identify with mermaids, and mermaids are fun and flexible, and 50-year-old mermaids are women who are fun, fearless, flexible. I like alliteration, obviously, and just want to move forward.
What's next for Margie going forward in 2025?
It's a great question. I know I'm working on doing a lot of book events and promotions, so I'll be doing a lot of that. But I'm also, like I said, I plotted out the second book, so I'm trying to sit down and write it, which is really hard to find all the time to do that, unlike the 3 months I made available to me. So I may have to grab a chunk of time, maybe this summer, I don't know, and just sit down and write it, because I have it outlined. So now I just have to get that done. But yeah, probably more focus on the second book in the Cabernet Club series.
Super. Thank you very much for sharing your story with us today. I really like it. You're doing so many fun things in your 50s that it's inspirational. And I hope other people see that and step out of their comfort zone and be willing to do the things they've always imagined doing.
Cute. I hope so too.
Margie Zable Fisher's story is a testament to the power of reinvention and the importance of saying yes to new experiences. Through the Margie Project, she pushed past her comfort zone to strengthen friendships, improve her health, and discover new passions 1 month at a time. From completing a triathlon to facing her fear of failure while learning to ride a motorcycle, Margie proved that growth doesn't stop at any age. Her journey took another unexpected turn when she honored her late mother's dream of publishing a novel. Despite never having written fiction, Margie dedicated herself to learning the craft, revising the manuscript, and ultimately landing a publishing deal for the Cabernet Club. Margie also shared insights on maintaining an active lifestyle, balancing work and passion projects, and the importance of creating purpose rather than waiting for it to find you. Whether it's writing pickleball or a completely new endeavor, Margie encourages others to explore their interests, take risks, and embrace the possibilities life has to offer. For people inspired by Margie's journey, you can connect with her at www.margiezfisher.com or join her Facebook group, The 50-Year-Old Mermaid, where she supports other women navigating midlife transitions. Her book, The Cabernet Club, is available on Amazon and in other bookstores. Margie's story reminds us that life doesn't slow down at 50. If anything, it's the perfect time to start writing your next chapter. If you'd like to start living a more meaningful life, I encourage you to download our free guide to finding purpose, which is available at www.forwardfrom50.com. I'll have another inspirational interview on the next episode of the Forward from 50 podcast. Thanks for listening, and if you like this show, please consider leaving a review wherever you download the episodes.